Greetings. I'm Mark, and I love coding. You already probably know that. In this video, I'm going to start where I left off in the last video. And if you've been following, we have been creating a random music player. So you can put in a list of music, and it will play the music off the list randomly only one time. Then app stops and you can start it again. Today in this video, what we're going to do, if you look here on the screen, how we hard-coded where our music files are. And what we're going to do today is we're going to use the selectInput function, which is a part of processing, and we're going to use it to grab the list. So when the list is complete, you'll be able to load a different list. So let's get started. All right, so one of the things that needs to be done is we're going to create a couple of functions. One is to determine where the folders are, or where the list is, and the other function, what it's going to do is it's going to take that location and that file, and it's going to truncate it just for a folder, because we'll need that later on. And there are other ways to do this, but I felt like this used the least amount of code. And you'll see as we go along, and I'll explain better. So here in our code, what we have is left off that we click on the screen. We click in our sketch display window, and it loads our first song. Now what we're going to do is make it so when we do that, it's going to open up a window in which we can use to select the folder and select the list. And this, you'll see, is quite common to Windows and other programs. And so what we want to do is we want to determine first whether or not a file has been selected or not. If it's not selected, we want it to do that. And so in order to do that, we need to create a Boolean, another Boolean. And I'm going to add it to here, and I'm going to call it file select, how do you spell that? Selected yet. And I know a lot of my variables are long-winded, but when you look at the code later on, it helps you really understand it. Okay, now, as you know, Booleans are either true or false. Now, something I didn't mention in previous videos, if you do not define them, right now we've declared them, if you do not find them like we've done down here, start equals false. This is actually kind of redundant because it defaults to false when you declare them up here in the global variables. And so now we're going to use that as a test. The first thing we want to do is say if, I probably could have copied it, file selected yet. If it's selected yet, I spell it right? I did. If it has been selected, then do what we've been doing, which is turn the started to true and load the first song. If not, let's put an else statement. Oops. Okay, so if it's not, here's what we want to do. We want to use that built-in function selectInput. Now, this takes 3 parameters, and the first one is actually what's going to be the title of the window when you click it. Like in our window right up here, you can see a title. Well, when you start this function, you can give it a name more or less. And I'm going to call this, tell it select list / music folder. And yeah, let me, and that's the first parameter. Oops. Now the second parameter, what it wants to, and you have to put this in quotes, it says it wants to perform a function once it's done this. And so our function name, and you can name it anything you want. I called mine file selected. And now this is a part of a function of it, the third parameter. I'm going to define what type of a data file that I'm looking for. And we want it to only show text files. Only show text files. And so that's the setup for this. Now what we are going to do is we're going to create a little function that's called files selected. And let's get to that. To do that, I'm going to create a tab. And I'm going to call it, let's call it list location. Because after all, that's what we're after. We're after loading a list. And now, I'm going to, you know what? Yeah, let's just do it. Okay, again, we're going to create our function using a void. It's not returning anything. And we're going to call it what we called it previously over here is, I'm just going to copy it, in fact, file selected, Control C, Control V, file selected. And now we're going to start this. Now, first thing we want to do is make sure that the selection, like that we didn't hit, when the window comes up to select the file, when it hits, that we didn't X out of it or cancel. Now, if we did, we just want to account for it so it doesn't error out. And so, if if, let me see, if selection is equal to null, then what are we going to do? If it's equal to null, I think what we'll do is what we're going to do is tell it the file name is equal to null. And we could also create some message that pops up, but I think that this would work good enough for us. Let me see, did I get this right? I did not. So what happens over here is it's going to load when we call it. As soon as we call it, it's going to put this name into a window that comes up that allows us to select files. Once it's done that, whether we've selected those files, canceled out, or X'd out, it's going to run this function. When the window pops up, it's going to look at all the files within that folder that we choose and only let us see the .txt files. And so then it comes over here and it will send results over here, which we need to tell it. We need to say file selection. And so when the results come back, if they're null, we're going to send file name a null. Now, what is this file name? We need to create this file name. There's a couple of reasons why we're going to do it this way. But this file name is actually the file name of our list that we're going to load. Just like we did over here. It gets at the top here. Into song names, we're going to actually be replacing that, but we're not even going to use this line in this piece of this code that we're doing today. There's going to be a lot of changes. But let's get back to it. We'll be using that file name. So we are going to need to create this file name. And in fact, we're going to need to also create a folder name. And those are all going to be within our string here. It's going to be strings. So file name and folder name. Let's go back to here, and you can see the error is gone. Now, if it's null, we want to make the file name null. If it's not null, we're going to put an else statement. We want it to do this. We want to initialize that file name and make it equal to the selection that was sent back get absolute path. And that will get the absolute path of where our selection is, including the name. And so if it's list, like here, what it would end up doing, absolute path is equivalent to what you see right here, if we've chosen this particular folder and that particular file. Now, once we've got that, what I want to do, and I don't have to do it exactly right here, but I want to use this file name. And what I want to do is extract the folder that it's in. I don't want the file name, I just want the folder. And the reason why we're doing that is because when we load our songs, as we have right in this part of our code, in this function, the load song function, we need to replace this with the folder name. It's just much like this, but it makes it more variable, and wherever we choose our list, wherever our songs are. Okay, so we're going to get back to here, and what I'm going to do is I want to create a function for that. Get folder name. Now, I'm putting it here, but we could put it further along in the code. It's not absolutely necessary to be here at this point. But since we have this name, I want to continue on with this, and we're going to go ahead and create yet another function, another tab, and we're going to call it get folder name. And how are we going to do that? Well, first thing we want to do is create our function void, and we're going to call it, as we named it before, get folder name. And now one of the first things we want to do is I want to create, well, let me tell you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to take that folder name, and if you know things about strings, they are themselves much like an array of characters. And I'm going to check every character. And what I'm looking for is the little backslash that says this is a folder level, and the other next one, and the next one. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to store that location point so I can use the substring function and grab just the folder name. And so how am I going to do that? It sounds complex, but it's real quick and easy. First thing I'm going to do is create a temporary that will change, because we're putting, it's only good in this function, a file name, file name index. And I'm going to initialize it to 0 in this case. Now I'm going to create a for loop to read every character in the string file name. For int I equals 0, as long as I is less than file name dot length and increment I. And so now it's going to check every letter. And what are we checking it against? Well, we're going to test it again using an if statement. It is, as I've stated before, the most powerful statement in all of programming and used in every single language. Typo again. Okay, now we're going to check file name dot char character at iLocation. So the first location is 0, which is, we've talked about in arrays, the first element 0. So if this were the actual name, F would be the 0 location. I don't like that. And so we're going to say if it's equal to, and it can only be a single character, but we spoke about this previously, the escape character. And it helps you print and look at text that would be more or less used as part of the code. And so, for instance, the escape character is a built-in function of the code, and so it can't use itself in a print statement or within quotes. Same with quotes. And so we're going to use the escape character on the backslash, and as you can see, it likes it now. If I'd have taken this away, it doesn't like it. And so we're going to put that there. And if it's equal to that, what we want it to do is we want it to store that location at file name index equals I. Okay, let me see, did we get that right? It's giving us an error. Let's see what I did wrong. Oh, it likes single quotes like that. File name index equals I. Okay, now before we leave here, we want to take that file name index, because what it's doing here is every time it sees one of these, which, say it's going through this, it's looking, it sees that, it sees that, it sees that, it sees that, it stores the location of where it's at. And what I am doing here is I'm saving that index. Once it's gone through the whole file name, I want to store folder name equals file name dot sub string, and I want it to start at 0, and I want it to go to our file name index plus 1. And so what that's going to do is it's going to take the beginning. Let's go use our little sample over here. Start with here, and everything up to this point. Well, it's looking at actually one less because we started our index up here at 0. And so it's starting at one less. That's why we added one to get that last slash in. And so now it's gathered up our folder name, so we can use that later on, which we might as well do it right now. Let's Control save this. And in load song, let me go back over here, get folder name. I'm just going to copy this, Control copy this. Load song, we want to remove this. And you can actually just take this out and Control paste what I had done there. And let me see what else I need to do in that. Same with here. We want to do the same thing. Control V. Okay. Let me see. I think that's all we need to do to that. Let's save this. We need to make some changes here. So we don't need this because, well, wait a minute. Let's get back over here. We have not actually finished this. We jumped and made that. Now we need to get into our, let me see, we're going from, we don't need this, but actually what we're going to do is cut it from here. And back over here. And I'm going to paste it here, but we're going to use file names. Or file name, rather. And so basically the same thing. Let me indent this as previous, but it all has to do with where we've selected our file from. Now, the next thing we want to do here is it's done everything it's supposed to do. Now we want to change our Boolean. File, selected, yet, and we want it to equal true. Jeez. File selected yet true. I'm going to say that. Now, let me see. I'm pretty sure we're about there. Let me just double check all this. All right, let's finish with our GUI. We got to complete our GUI. Our GUI is incomplete. So what we've done previously is you click on the display window and it starts playing the first song. We're going to make it so you click on it and it goes into loading to be able to load where your list is. And we need to set up text and everything to deal with that. So the first thing we want to do here is use our Boolean of file selected yet. If it's not file selected yet, then we want to do something here. Else we want to do everything that we were doing before. And so more or less this is the only area we have to change here. And the first thing we want to do is put a text to tell us what to do. And I'm going to put a text size, and I'm going to give it a size of width divided by 25. And this is going to be a long line. And I was showing you how I did this previous text. And remember, 3 parameters, what you want to say and where you want to put it. And so I'm going to say click in window, and then I want to drop it a line. Remember the escape character, drop it a line. And 2, don't want a space before it. So, oops. Select list / music. Folder. Because we've been saying your music needs to be in the same folder as your list, or your list needs to be in the same folder as your music. And then I want to add a couple escape characters to drop it a line 2 times. I'm going to do that. And since it's going to be a long line, I'm going to just enter, drop it down a line, I'm going to tab it in a little bit, and I'm going to continue. And I'm going to say that all lists must be in the same location. And I'm going to drop down a line. Oops. As the music in the lists, plural. And now I'm going to set that to width divided by 2 in the center on the x-axis, and HEIGHT. I don't want it quite in the center, and so I'm going to divide it by 2.5. And that should be that. Let's save it. And let's run it. And oop, we got a error. Okay, in general, that means that I forgot. a bracket. So if it's this, then this, up, yes. Enter squiggly braces. I can do some cleanup here, but it is kind of anal. But I kind of like it. It makes it easier to read your own code when you make sure everything has its own little indentation. You know, it's a part of something, a part of an if statement. Yes, I can see another error while we're at it. I bet you guys were screaming at me. This is wrong, it's wrong. Okay. And this can go over. And there you have it. And I think we got it. Control save. Now let's run it. All right. And click in window to select list / music. I don't like that. Let's find it. Where did I blow that? / music folder. Control save, control run. / music folder. Actually, let's change this. I don't like where it's sitting. I'm going to say 3 and control save, control run. And yeah, I like that better. Okay, click in the window to select music, to select list / music folder. All lists must be in the same location as the music in the list. And click on it, and then we get this baby here. And I'm going to click on this PC, double click on music, and here's the list we created in the previous one. I'm going to click on that, and let's see if we get something now. We got the same thing. Everything should be the same. And it plays the list through. And when it's done, let's see, gets done. It gives us the opportunity to do it again. And if I did it right, we should get that same window back up. But I did it wrong. And so we're going to find out what I did. Okay, the one thing we needed to do is I say we, but it's all me. I needed to, when it restarts, I need to wait. I need to also reset this. To false. Now, to save a line of code, you could also do this. Equates to the same thing. All right, let me save it. Okay, now we're going to test it and see what we come up with. Go into our music list, oops, and play it. Now we know that there's, you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whoa, click it again. All right, we have our little error there. I want to, right up here, want to make sure that each time that it resets that text to white. Control S to save, Control R to run. Try it again. One. Go in here. Go in here. Click on our list. Go in here. It starts playing. Goes through. And click it again. We get a chance to select yet another list. And again, same thing. Gets through the last song and we're able to click it and do it again and repeat. Cancel out of that. And that's it. I know it looks a little complex and strange, and the longer your code gets, when you do have issues, the longer it takes to actually seek out and find where you messed up. Hopefully I was slow enough that you could follow along and see where I had my issues and try to avoid them. If you have any comments, you can place them below. Any questions, I will be putting a link to this sketch in my GitHub repository. The next version of this, we're going to add some buttons to it, and these are going to be essential for the closing video of this set of random music file player. So again, if you have any questions, comments down below. Thank you for watching. Again, my name is Mark. Please try to be happy and always be good to one another. Thank you.